If you are working on a book project, I bet you want to get it published. And I also bet you're not really sure how to go about that. This is especially difficult for nonfiction authors because I find that so much of the advice out there is specifically for fiction. So today I want to talk about the top 5 mistakes that I see nonfiction authors making when they're trying to query agents and publishers. Stay tuned, you won't want to miss this one. If you are fed up with trying to stumble through this writing project with no idea where you're going or when you'll get there, you need a plan. And I have got the tool for you. Right now, you can download the Writing Plan Calculator. It's going to give you a timeline for your whole book project, the goals that you need to hit along the way, and the flexibility to adjust when your schedule changes. You can download it right now at pageandpodium.com/plan. It can feel almost impossible to figure out how you are going to cross this threshold from having this project that you care about so much to actually getting it out in the world with a publisher that is going to take it seriously, that is going to invest in you, and is really going to be as excited about this book as you are. What I find is that so many nonfiction authors will be down the Google rabbit hole trying to find sample proposals that they can kind of model off of, or trying to read advice on how to write a proposal, or ordering book after book after ebook, just trying to get some solid advice on what even is needed to query nonfiction. So I want to start out by just giving you a bit of an overview of what the process of querying is like for nonfiction, because that's going to lead us right into our top 5 mistakes. And I know that then once you know them, you'll be in such a better place to move forward. So the first thing you need to know is that when you are querying nonfiction, it is a little bit of a different process from fiction. And the thing that is missing from fiction querying that you will have to do as a nonfiction author is you must have a book proposal. Yes, this is even true if you have the full book written. There's a good reason for this. When we're talking about nonfiction, there are lots of other factors that come into play that help that book sell that don't have anything to do with what's in the actual book. Nonfiction, as one clear example, is that nonfiction is always sold on the authority of the author. So this is why celebrity memoirs tend to sell really well. We know the author, right? We like the author. We want to hear what their life was like. It's the same reason that there are, people that have published book after book after book. Adam Grant is a great example, right? People who are writing books in a particular niche so that their name starts to get known, not just as a good writer, although yes, that's true too, but as an expert in the field. And this is something that is so important in nonfiction. Now, certainly it's fun to read fiction by people that have really studied their craft, and people even who have brought in kind of another past life or another kind of set of experiences into their fiction writing. But this just does not matter nearly as much with fiction as it does for nonfiction. And these are the kinds of things that are going to go in your book proposal. It's basically just making a case that you, the author, your vision is going to be bigger than that book, and it's going to reach the readers that you are trying to reach. So otherwise, the process is actually pretty similar. You're going to query, you're going to get a request for more information, you're going to send along your book proposal, and then if you move on forward beyond that, then there will be conversations about either if it's an agent, how they're going to query publishers, or if it's a publisher, what's the timeline on your book, what's the plan, that kind of thing. But it's that middle piece that actually brings me to the number one thing that I see nonfiction authors get really unpleasantly surprised by, and that is that they don't have a book proposal. Now, this is okay in a way, because if you have queried, and you're querying agents or editors, if you get a response, 9 times out of 10, they're going to tell you you need a book proposal. Okay, so you can put a book proposal together, right? Except the problem is that once you have interest from an agent or editor, the last thing you're going to want to do is write back and say, oh, can you give me a couple months? I don't have a book proposal. And that is what that would take. Book proposals take a really long time to write. You are putting together all kinds of components, all kinds of conversations. And as I mentioned earlier, it's really hard to find good advice on what a good proposal even looks like. So this is why my advice is that before you even write that query letter, put the proposal together. The proposal is not only necessary, it is going to help make your query letter stronger. It's going to help you think about who you even want to query. And particularly if you have not written the book yet, it's going to help you figure out what this book is going to look like as a whole. So you want to make sure that you are avoiding this mistake of just not having a proposal by preparing before you even query to get that proposal together. All right, and that brings me to my second mistake that I see a lot. Now, I think this one, all of these are understandable, by the way, but I think this one is so understandable. And that is that many nonfiction authors will assume that when they're asked for a proposal, what they're being asked for is actually something that's pretty quick that they can kind of just throw together, particularly if they've already written the book. Again, this is so understandable. If you have already written your book, or if you feel like you kind of know what the book is going to be already, it's very tempting to think that the proposal isn't really going to matter, right? And if the proposal doesn't matter, well, why don't I just kind of knock it out? What is it, like a one-pager? The mistake here is twofold. On one hand, if you get interest from an agent, if an agent emails you and says, this is great, I would love to see your proposal, I do hear of people replying to that email and saying, I'm so happy to hear from you. Thank you for your interest. Give me a week. I'm going to put a proposal together. This is all the red flags for agents and editors, by the way, because proposals take months. And once an author has said, oh, I'm just going to put it together really quick, you are sending, when you send that email, you are sending so much information about your inexperience, about your, sometimes your magical thinking tendencies, about your unawareness of what a good proposal is going to be. And all of that matters because especially if you're querying agents, agents cannot sell your book to an editor, to a publishing house, without that proposal. So even if they're very interested, when you reply and say, I'll just put it together really quick, you are really signaling that you are not going to be a strong partner in trying to get this book sold. And one thing that I do think is easy to forget is that agents only make money when they sell your book. So no agent is going to be taking a good risk in their life by bringing on an author who has shown that they aren't really sure what they're doing and that they're not willing to ask, right? So that is the first kind of piece of the mistake, is that often you're going to be signaling something you didn't mean to signal. But the other piece of the mistake is that it is just impossible to write a book proposal that quickly. Book proposals are often 60, 70, 80 pages and up. When we're talking about a formal, full book proposal, you are not talking about a one-pager. You are talking about multiple sections that require all kinds of different research. Some of that research really needs kind of an industry eye. Others you can do on your own. But at the very least, you're going to be reading multiple books, figuring out kind of how they work with yours. If you haven't written your book yet, also if you have, but if you haven't written your book, you're going to have to go through the process of figuring out what all is going to go in there. You are going to have to do research on how to market, what kinds of audiences are buying that type of book. You're going to have to spend a lot of time thinking about what your contribution to the promotion will be. All the things. So the second way that you're shooting yourself in the foot is you're telling an agent or an editor, oh, I'll have this to you by next week. It's not possible. So now you have put yourself in this situation where you've kind of blown your one shot with that editor or agent because there's no way. You're not going to have this together by the end of next week. And now you have shown that you can't hit a deadline. So, close cousin to just not having a proposal. This second one is thinking that you can quickly throw your proposal together. It's not realistic, it's not a good idea, it's not going to be very strong. So, we really want to avoid this mistake. Trust me, you cannot just throw a proposal together. Okay, I kind of hinted at this one in my second mistake, but I want to give you the third mistake, and that is that you might not really know what your book is about. Now, I work with a lot of memoir authors, and sometimes memoir authors will go ahead and pitch their book just based on a proposal. I always recommend with memoir that you write the whole thing first, and here's why. Memoir is not just telling your story. Writing a memoir is the process of discovering what your story means. And most people are not able to articulate that in a clear and compelling way until they have been through the process of writing it. In other words, as I said, they don't really know what the book is about. And when you say for memoir, oh, it's my story, that's not really compelling, right? We need to work through it to figure out what aspects of your story relate to other people, how you are going to invite others into this umbrella of your humanity. That doesn't always take writing the book, but writing the book is one of the surest ways to get there. I also see this happen with general nonfiction. And with general nonfiction, this is a more reasonable choice to make, by the way. We do write standalone proposals all the time for general nonfiction, because at least with general nonfiction, you are not doing quite so much self-discovery. Typically, this is something that you are an expert in. You usually talk about it. If you're going to be a strong candidate, you're usually talking about it at, keynotes or on panels or, maybe even just on social media. These are ideas that you have practiced and gotten out. But it's still a problem for general nonfiction because the issue is that oftentimes the way we are talking about things is at least a little bit derivative of the way that others in our kind of industry or our world are talking about those things. And what that means is if you have not done the hard work of digging down deep in your ideas and figuring out what makes them special and unique, essentially figuring out what boundary are you pushing, you're not going to be able to articulate a really compelling book, right? You're going to be articulating something that probably either exists already or very close to it. So again, you may choose to write the whole book, but as I said, for general nonfiction, it actually does work okay to just do the proposal. So what's my solution here? What I suggest is that even if you don't want to write the whole book, you need to do all of the pre-writing. So if you've been watching this channel, I suggest that you start with a brain dump, write down everything in a bulleted list of what you want to include in that book. That is going to allow you then to look at your list of things that you want to include and be really thoughtful about what goes where, how these ideas fit together, how you can kind of map them in an interesting way, and with nuance, what this book is even going to be. So that's going to help you avoid this third mistake, which is just not knowing what your book is about. Until you have a really, really clear sense of what the selling point of your book is, you are just really not ready to query at all. Okay, mistake number 4 that I see all of the time, and I have even talked about this on this channel multiple times, is that even if you are putting a proposal together, even if you know what that book is, it is so common for nonfiction authors to assume that the reason they're getting a publisher is so that they won't have to do the promotion. This is such a mistake. If you are working with somebody on a proposal, if you kind of find a template somewhere for your proposal, one thing that you will see is that it is heavy on the marketing and promotion. And in fact, what publishers are looking for is that you, the author, understand your role in that process. They want to know that you get that that book is selling based on you. They can market it, meaning they can make it available in the markets it needs to be made available in. They can do, they'll send sales reps out to bookstores, libraries, whatever, to make sure that that book is available. They'll even do ads and things like that. But no nonfiction book is doing really, really well unless the author is actively out there promoting themselves and promoting that book too. So it is such a huge mistake to write your book proposal without really thinking about how you are going to play an active role in the promotion of this book. And as an extension of that, you also really need to think about how you are going to be front and center before you even query, demonstrating that not only do you know you're going to have to promote the book, but that you know how to do it, right? So for instance, if you say like, okay, well, I'm going to get out there, I'm going to be this figurehead, I'm going to be a thought leader, but then that publisher goes to your, professional social media account and you are not active on social media, you don't have any followers, you don't have any engagement. Well, how can they trust that you're going to be out there promoting your book? You have no evidence that you know how to do that. So as you are putting that proposal together, as you are preparing to query, it is so, so important that you are thinking about your role in the promotion and how you can make that as strong and active as possible, and how you can show that you know how to do that before you even put the proposal together. I will tell you, I hate this as much as y'all do, but not having a strong enough platform is the most common reason that I see book proposals be rejected. You can write the strongest, most compelling proposal, and unless you are actively showing that you are competent and able and excited to speak about your ideas, whether that's your life story or a general nonfiction book, it is going to be so, so difficult for any acquisitions editor at any press to acquire your book and make the case to all of the people they have to make the case to that this is a worthwhile investment for the press. So that is number 4. Make sure that you are very, very clear on what your role in marketing and promotion is, because it's not little. You are not handing off marketing and promotion to a publisher. You are partnering with a publisher to publish, promote, and market your book. And you are as active in that process, if not more so, than they are. All right, number 5. This one is a big one that I see, and while it can feel a little like a detail, I find that this is a really, really helpful mindset shift. So I saved the best for the last. This last mistake that I see people make all the time with their nonfiction books is that they feel a lot of pressure to argue about how unique the book is. And what I mean by that is that they will try to set their book so far apart from every other book that exists right now that they end up inadvertently making the case that their book would not have any place to live on a bookshelf in a bookstore. So let me kind of give you an example of that, right? So let's say that we are going to be putting together a business book, and this is a book that's based on your experience as an entrepreneur. Maybe you're also an entrepreneur's coach, so you are out in this business world, right? Well, what a lot of people will want to do is say like, well, this isn't your average business book, right? I am going to do all these things different. And sometimes people even will lean into this and be even very critical of what other authors, other business book authors are doing just to really show that they are different, right? I get that. I especially get that, by the way, for entrepreneurs, because there's so much pressure on us to differentiate ourselves. So of course, the instinct is to make yourself as different as possible. But if I'm trying to pitch this business book that is so different that it doesn't even feel like a business book, where is any bookstore going to put that, right? When you pick up a business book, you expect it to look a particular way. If it doesn't have any resemblance to the other business books on the shelf, readers aren't going to be happy with that, right? Readers pick up a business book because they want to read a business book. The same is true for literally any genre. So I promised you a mindset shift. It's my very favorite thing to deliver. Let me give you a way to think about this. Rather than trying to argue that your book is so different than any of these other books, I want you to reframe that. I want you to think about how your book is similar to the other books in your market, meaning the other books that your reader would also have read, but how it is different in one key way. This is going to give you a couple of advantages. One, you're going to avoid this thing where you are so different from everybody else that nobody knows what to do with you, right? You don't know what agent to query. The agent doesn't know what editor to query. You don't really even know who your reader is. It's so different. It's so in left field that we really don't even know what to do with you. That's one advantage. I think the second one is even bigger. When you push yourself to choose just one aspect that is different, you now have such a clear roadmap in how to put the full proposal together. You have your one thing that makes you stand out, and since it's just one thing and not 50 things, you can very, very clearly articulate it. You have space in the proposal to make a really clear argument for why that one different thing matters, why it makes a difference, why it's going to make your book more saleable. And you are going to be so able to articulate that throughout the book, right? You know the thing that is different. So now as you're planning out what's going to go in your book, which you do have to do before you do the proposal, by the way, you will know, okay, I've got to get this one different thing into every single piece of this chapter outline. I've got to get this one single thing all throughout my book. That is so valuable. So now this is a win-win, right? Because not only are you avoiding this big mistake of accidentally setting yourself so far apart that your book is no longer saleable, you are also giving yourself this advantage of a very clear, very easy to articulate differentiator, the thing that really will make your book more saleable, because readers know where they're shopping, what they're buying, and they know that what they're going to get is going to be a cut above the rest. Okay, so as you are working through this process, I hope that you will reach out if you need help. Book proposals are really, really hard. So I hope that if you would like some coaching, let us know. We have a program that is specifically designed to coach you through your book proposal. If that's what you need, reach out. Let's get you set up. We also offer ghostwriting. So if you would rather just outsource the whole entire proposal, we can do that. We have a really strong track record of getting proposals placed with agents and editors. We would love to help you out. And our package includes support through the querying process as well. That can be worth its weight in gold just to know that when you have questions, you have someone that you can go to and ask for help. Okay, well, I hope that you are having such a good time thinking about this publishing process. I hope that I have gotten rid of some of that overwhelm and fear for you, and I hope that you will push forward with so much enthusiasm. Your book has as much right to exist as any of those published books on the market, and I cannot wait to get my copy. Happy writing. If you're writing your first book, I bet you already know you need a plan. But the hardest thing about making a plan for your first book is you don't have the experience to know how to plan. And that is why I put together our newest free download, the Writing Plan Calculator. With this calculator, you are easily going to be able to figure out a realistic timeline, realistic weekly goals, and the flexibility you're going to need for this long-term project. You can download it now at pageandpodium.com/plan, and you are going to knock this book out of the park. I can't wait to read it.